Stop right there. Yeah, you. If you like all things entertainment, current events, or Hollywood, then look no further. Creator to Creators, hosted by director Meosha of Horror Noir, interviews filmmakers and creatives from around the world. Join in on the fun, guest celebrities, and informative information to have as a creator. Hit subscribe and stay connected to Creator to Creators.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Creators to Creators today. Today, we have a special guest.
AYR Majesty.
Welcome to the show.
It's nice to be here.
I love your name, by the way. I love it. It's great.
Oh, that's good. My parents don't like it. I think it sounds pretentious.
I think it's awesome. I was like, wow,
Yeah.
that's really cool. Let's start from the beginning. Like a little bit, tell me a little about your childhood growing up and kind of how did you find your way into the music and being who you are now?
So my childhood was a little rocky, like a lot of people, because my parents, they didn't really have money, and my mom kind of got pregnant at like 19. So we traveled a lot.
Mhm.
So I met a lot of different people across, the United States, living in different homeless shelters or mobile homes, or maybe we'd be living in a car for a while. And it really I just always wanted to do more with my life. I always felt like I was kind of like trapped, especially creatively. I never really got creative until like late in life. And um, but I think that experience kind of like helped me grow as a person.
Mhm.
And now that I look back on it, I do draw a lot of inspiration from that period. And when it comes to music, I used to hate music as a kid
Really?
because we used to, yeah, whenever we did road trips, when we were traveling, uh, the radio stations would sometimes go off, and then you'd be in like the middle of Arizona, and you had to like rely on a Gwen Stefani CD my sister got. I never got to get CDs for my birthday, but my sister, she always had like Beyonce, Gwen Stefani, so that's all I listened to, and it never like was like my thing. So it
Right.
wasn't until like later in life when I got to choose my own music where I was like, oh wow, there is music for me. And then, so I remember I used to hate music, and my parents thought there was something wrong with me. It's like, why do you hate music? It's like, I don't know. And I just never listened to music. I never had like a MP3 player or anything. And
Oh.
it's funny now that I make music, and it's like my passion, because back then I was just like, that's the last thing I did. And I felt like a lot of that kind of helped me explore other things in life. So I got into like drawing and art, and
Nice.
I feel like I've always been kind of creative, and I always wanted like an outlet. So I was making videos as a kid with my brothers, and then we started making games, and it's just been like a journey to like finally get into music, and yeah,
I like that. I like that. I think that's really cool that you wasn't into music, but now you're into it, and it's not you breathe it right now. Like that's what
yeah,
you are. And I'm curious about your song because I listened to it and I loved it. I was like, she's a sam. I like that. It's different. It's like I was wondering like what was that process of making that and then like why that title? Yeah, I'm just curious about that song.
yeah. So that song was very interesting when I made it. I think I got the idea because I was interested in the Romeo and Juliet story,
Hmm.
and I googled like what was Romeo's last words, and apparently it was "With a knife I die," and that
Yeah.
kind of like struck me. I was like, that's the last thing he says to Juliet, and something about that line was just so morbid, but also like you know something about it just stuck with me. And then instantly I connected that to like the samurai, who
Mm.
they would commit suicide if they felt dishonored, or like they thought their life was over, or it was really to not live any further shame.
Yeah.
And they called that ritual like seppuku. So I thought there was like some similarities there, and I thought if I could combine those into like a song, to like that ultimate despair that someone feels if they lost everything.
Mm.
And then I was workshopping ideas, and I think ultimately it comes down to the core emotions people have, whether
Yeah.
it's like joy, love. And I thought the symbol of losing your ultimate love is very detrimental, and it is a reason why a lot of people do that. So it is kind of a dark song because it is about suicide. But I
Mm.
think, you know, I was worried about it because I felt like a lot of people are going to think it's a little dark. But actually, when I put it out, I got some people saying that it wasn't dark enough, and I was like surprised. Yeah,
No, I think it was, I think that's what I definitely got out of it was something, it was very emotional. And it was that, like you said, I think I read something about like, like the double-edged sword of a relationship, and how,
yeah,
you can lose yourself in someone that you love so much, and that person becomes your world, and and if that doesn't work out, like it crumbles. So I think it's super relatable. Like I think a lot of people have been through that, and I'm just curious. I mean, if you don't mind diving into it,
yeah.
do you think this was more like for you making the song was, were you going through something like that, or was it something like you kind of, for you, was it therapeutic in a way to make this and to release it out?
Um, so it was funny because when I was my brothers and my family listened to it, and they really liked the song,
Yeah.
and I thought it was funny. 'Cause I was like, I was just being like straight honest when I was writing that. Like, I felt like I was being too honest, but I guess like when you write in music, people don't like necessarily read into it too much.
Hmm.
But yeah, the reason why I looked up all that stuff was because I was going through that period of
Hmm.
feeling that kind of lost, and even like fantasizing about suicide. And
Mm.
I had been just so done with looking forward to every day,
Yeah.
and it was kind of like my outlet to like how can I you know express my feelings, like how I'm feeling right now. And it was a very dark period, and it's not something that like you easily get over. But
Hmm.
I think that it was good for me to put that out there because I know that other people might be feeling that same way, and they need to know that there is light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
You can get through it. But I was like just sometimes just sitting there not wanting to do anything, the
Yeah.
ultimate feeling of depression and feeling like nothing you do matters.
Hmm.
And there's nothing to look forward to, which I think is like the worst kind of feeling because like you just lose like the love of life.
Yeah.
And but yeah, it was definitely very personal when I wrote that, but I think it definitely helps the song when I am more honest.
Hmm. And I appreciate that. I mean, I feel like too, with the music that we listen to today, and like I don't know, things have. I don't think. Well, I mean, African American men or just men in general are not as emotional when it comes to putting music out, and you don't really hear that
Yeah,
emotion or feeling, and you feel like you know, well, it's like a stigma, like you can't talk about your feelings or be
yeah,
truthful and honest. So I appreciate that for being honest and open, because like it is helping a lot of people open that door or that room for conversation, because it's something that a lot of people and men do go through. So
yeah.
thank you for that.
Yeah, I definitely have heard that before. Even my dad, he was like talking about like, um, oh, some people are gonna judge you because you're being so honest, and they're gonna see you as like a weak man. And I laughed because it was just like I that's never bothered me what other people think of me because I've always known that I am not a weak
Yeah,
man.
no, definitely
And
not.
so I feel like it's honestly to not be true to yourself and not to express yourself. I feel like that's a weaker position.
Hmm.
You have to be able to put yourself out there. That's what
Yeah.
takes strength. Because I know I have gotten like hate and stuff for being me. But the only
Hmm.
alternative is to do nothing. If you do
Yeah.
nothing, no one's going to ever bother you. But then you're
Right.
not going to, give your gift to the world.
Yeah. And I think that takes, like you said, it's strength, and you're very strong for being honest and open and vulnerable. And so like I appreciate that, because I mean I don't hear enough men doing that today in music. So kudos to you for
Yeah.
laying it all out there. That is really, really cool. Um I love that, you know, that you refer, like you kind of, you said you looked it up, Romeo and Juliet, and and that was kind of like the similarities. I absolutely love that movie. So
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is super cool that you went this route with it, and that scene. But I'm curious, when you put it out there, were you, I mean, are you into films as well? Are you a big movie buff? Because I was like, that's a really interesting Okay,
Yes.
Romeo and Juliet with that. Okay, I like that. And I
Yeah.
mean, it was just very, very cool. Um, but when you put it out, like, were you worried about it is if it's not going to get that much love? Because I mean, nowadays music is just no one's really talking about much. The topics today are
Yeah.
just really surface, and it's just very generic, very
Yeah.
about
Usually about getting laid or
exploiting women.
something.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
exploiting women. It's like,
Yeah.
so I like that you're talking about real things and not being persuaded by media or other people in
Yeah.
your
Like
ear.
trying to copy what's hot right now.
Yeah, so that's good. That's good.
No, I was definitely a movie guy, and actually that's my other love is filmmaking.
Oh,
And
awesome.
yeah, so I kind of focus on music right now, but I definitely love film, and I can see myself getting back to like making films. And
Mm,
I have taken inspiration. Maybe I'll see a movie. Like I think I saw Gone with the Wind, and he says like, "Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn."
I
And I've
love
been trying
that.
to like write that. I've been trying to add that to like any song I can, because
Yeah.
I feel like I'm a good writer, I feel like, but some of the best writings in the past, because you've had like hundreds of years of people writing, and
Hmm.
some lines carry so much meaning that if you use them, if you bring them back to life, it
Hmm.
adds that much more to your song, just like with the Romeo and Juliet thing. So I always try to find inspirations outside myself because I know I can't do everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. No, I think you're doing great. I think what you're doing is awesome. Um, so I'm curious of like the ups and downs of this business, because I'm from a film background. I went to school for cinematography, and being a woman, you get a little, it's a little different. It's a little harder to get into those doors, but you got to just work hard and do what you got to do. But then moving into podcasting and then have my own production company, and getting into the music world a little bit, shooting music videos. I don't sing at all. I cannot.
Yeah.
um, but I'm curious, like, because there's been tough times for me in those quiet moments. How do you um get out of that rut of the, I guess, the rat race of the music, because it's a big world? And are
Oh
you in
yeah.
Los Angeles? Are you in Los Angeles?
Yeah, I'm in Los
uh,
Angeles.
yeah, it's a lot. Everyone's a music and filmmaker,
Yeah.
right? Like, how do you continue to keep going? Like, what keeps you going?
It is difficult because you do feel like no one is really seeing your song sometimes, or like you're not reaching anybody, and you put in a lot of work. And I would say that I have gone through a lot of growth in the period of like releasing some of my music, because I would release it and then I'd get like very few or any positive feedback. And I would just think it's my fault. Like I did something
Mm,
wrong. And then I would run back to the studio and think, and tear myself apart trying to make a better song. And I think that it's important to know that your fan base will always be like a niche. And that means you might get 1,000 people listening to your song. None of them might like it,
mhm,
but there still could be a bunch of people that would like your song. You
mhm.
just have to make sure you market it to those people, and that's the hard part. It's really finding your fan base.
Right.
And I like to think like even big artists like Drake or like Post Malone or Beyonce, they
Mhm.
have a fan base, but there's so many more people in the world that will never listen to their music.
Yeah,
So you had to
true.
you had to think like that. Like it doesn't matter how big you get, you'll always have more people who don't listen to it.
Yeah.
And it's really just getting the exposure. Because once you get the exposure, then your fan base can find you.
Yeah.
So I would say don't be so self-critical, because it's often not your fault if you're not reaching the people. And I've grown into like sometimes I've been trying to get on playlists,
Mhm.
and they'll say something like, "Oh, I liked everything until the end."
Oh, I see.
For that reason, they don't want to add my song. So that's kind of heartbreaking, because like to me, it's not a big deal.
Hmm.
But it could be the smallest things that people are picky with, and it doesn't mean like your whole song needs to be thrown out. It just
Yeah,
means that you need to find people to love your music.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right about that. It's a tough industry for sure. I'm curious, how much are you like like in the process of making your music? Are you mixing? Are you producing it as well as laying down the tracks of, vocals?
I started doing everything.
Oh,
I had
wow.
all these, yeah, I
Nice.
had all these plugins on my computer. I was mixing it myself. I was making the beat myself.
Oh, wow.
And I think what happened was I spent a couple days making a beat, and then I spent a couple days making the rest of the vocals. I
Right.
did it all myself, and the feedback I got was, I don't know, that the beat's not really doing it for me. So then I was like, okay, it's a lot of work to like do all that yourself.
Yeah.
So instead, I just went and found someone else who makes
Mhm.
beats and they have more experience than me and it sounds better.
Yeah.
And it's okay to rely on other people. And then I started going to the studio more and relying on engineers that know how to mix better than me.
Yeah.
And when I started doing that, my music really started to shine because then I could focus on what I'm good at, which is
Exactly.
just the vocals part. So when I tried to do everything myself, I was holding myself back.
Mm.
But when I let go and I started to find other people to help me, and it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to say, maybe I can't do everything myself, because then you're going to grow so much more with other people.
Absolutely. Oh my God, 1000%. I remember like a time when I was when I did shooting, I shot like a lot of music videos and I would edit them, and I'm like, this, I do not like editing. But I had to
Yeah,
get it out. I didn't know anyone at
yeah.
the time, but it just does it elevated my work so much more when I had somebody else that I could trust and let
Who
go of that
specializes
power.
that? Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm
yeah.
like, I trust you. Let's do this. But yeah, you're right. It elevates it way more. I'm curious of like your music inspiration, because I mean, I work with a lot of people in the business. I mean, Billy Idol, I work with a lot of people, but you have a different type of sound, and it's different and I like it. Who's some of your inspirations in the music world?
It's hard to say now because most of the music I listen to, they're usually dead by now.
I mean, I
I
love it.
listen to
Hey, I love that.
I listen to like a lot of oldies, Elvis, Frank Sinatra, Michael Jackson,
Mm,
um, a lot of guys in the 80s R&B,
nice.
90s R&B. Like I rarely listen to like modern music now, just because to me it lacks a lot of what I like, which is like that soul of like being honest about your feelings or something like that.
Yeah.
And nowadays it's all like bragging about money and stuff. So, I like kind of the older music in that way. I'm kind of an old soul, I've been told.
I I love
And
that.
yeah. And my sound is actually interesting because I actually didn't discover that sound until this year.
Oh.
And it was just like a weird process of I didn't know I could do it until I did it.
Mm.
So other people kind of like encouraged me to try some more things with my voice, and I would tell them I can't do that. Or my sister, she was like, "Oh, that sounds like falsetto in one song." It's like, "Oh, you should try falsetto the whole song." I was like, "I don't know how to do that," and I just went into the studio one day. I was just like, "Okay, I'm either gonna sound really bad or really good," and that's the day I made Samurai, and yeah. But when I did that, I had no idea in my mind how to do it. I just like, I don't know if I'm doing falsetto, I'm gonna try because I never really took singing lessons.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I've been
That's
just I've
awesome.
been just going in there kind of blind.
I feel like that's the best things that I don't know, like when you just go in there blind and you in an open canvas, it's like you come out
Yeah,
with a really artistic piece and you're like, wow, you surprise
yeah, exactly. That's what
yourself.
I thought. I was like, I don't know how to do that. I'm just like everyone else. So I'm like, wow, that's cool.
No, but you are your name. You're living up to your name. I mean, your name
Yeah,
it's already there. I really do believe that everything that we are, who we are, like encompass is, in our name, and it's there's a part of that, you know, you know what I mean? Like it's just
well,
like,
actually, the inspiration for my name, it came from the fact that I was reading on like encouragement and like I was doubting myself a lot. So it was
oh,
actually to help me, and it's about how you view yourself.
yeah,
Others are going to view you. What you
absolutely.
put out into the world, that's what you're going to receive.
1,000.
And even though I didn't feel like I deserved deserved like a great life or anything like that. Maybe I didn't feel like I deserved people's respect.
Mhm.
I know that I didn't want to do that to myself anymore.
I like that.
So, I wanted to make sure that I chose a name that was going to evoke the kind of life I wanted to live. So that's really the inspiration for the name. It wasn't that I felt like that's who I am, it's what I want to be. So
Okay.
it's kind of like putting it out there. Like this is who I want to be eventually, you
Yeah.
know.
Do you feel like you're that person now?
Um I feel like I'm getting there. Like I definitely feel like a part of it is just how you view yourself.
Hmm.
Like I can't control how the world views me, but I think it definitely helped instill some more confidence in me and change how I view myself day to day. And I think that's probably the most important part because
Yeah.
it's not good. Like your thoughts about yourself will
Hmm.
usually become who you are. So if you think of yourself a certain way, you will become that person, you know?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, and then the business that we're in is such a judgmental one.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah.
it's like you have to find, and I find myself disconnecting that helps me to like get away from the noise, to go within and to like remember, oh, this is who I am. I'm not who this person
Yeah.
says I am or what they say that I am. And so I think that's really awesome that you chose that name to be that you're becoming that person. I feel like that's really, really powerful that you did that. So
Yeah. I mean, I hope that well, I had this cool ideas like you kind of could choose what you want to be in life, and
absolutely.
you could choose what people call you. You could choose, how people see you, and that's a
Yeah,
very powerful thing that people don't maybe necessarily know that you can be who you want to be, and that's kind of what the
absolutely.
name is.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that. I'm curious, being in the music industry, there's independent, there's a mainstream, everybody wants to get to a certain level. Now, do you,
Hmm.
with your experience in, that you've been, in the business side of the music, do you prefer independent route or more so the mainstream? Because I know independent, you're more like in control of like your voice and what you want. But the mainstream, there are benefits to that too. But then there's also
Yeah,
the
a
negative
lot of
side
giveaway. Yeah.
of that too. But what would you suggest? Like, I mean, as far as like people who wants to get into the music industry, do you think what do you think is better?
I think that for an artist, the most important thing is that your art is finds a home.
Mhm.
So even though I may lose control, I think it's more important that my art reaches more people
I see.
because I don't necessarily want to be like Picasso and like die without anyone like seeing my art or appreciating it.
Right.
Um so and I also learned that, letting go of more control is also sometimes a good thing
Yeah.
because I don't know everything. So I do feel like at the end of the day, teamwork is usually better. And I probably should have learned that in high school when I was trying to play quarterback and my coaches wanted me on defense. I had like ego issues. I was like, I ain't playing defense. I'm a quarterback. And yeah, I do think it's important. Like as an artist, it is like sometimes you want to do it your way and stuff,
Mhm.
but you could be wrong. Like anyone's susceptible to being wrong.
Yeah.
So I think that anyone's insight is good. And I've worked with producers and they said something like, "Oh, I like that." I just trusted them and it turned out better.
Yeah.
And I might be like a little wary at first, but I've definitely learned to let go a lot in terms of like mixing and stuff because I might not like it, but then someone else might like it.
Right. Yeah, that's
You know,
true. It's very true. I like that. What do you want people to walk away with when they listen to She's a Samurai? Like, what do you want people's feeling to be after they listen to it? Like, what was your goal?
uh, it's funny. It's a very sad song, and it's a song about losing kind of like love for life, but also kind of like losing control. You feel like you're not in control of what's going on. But I do feel like at the end of the song, you kind of feel like a sense of regaining that control in some way. Like you are in control of your life.
I like that.
And I think that's kind of what the story is about. It's, instead of taking your life, why don't you do something with it?
I
Because
like
you're
that.
in control of it, you know?
I like that. That's good. That's a good
Yeah.
message. And I think a lot of people are gonna definitely walk away with that because when I was listening to it, I was like, wow. I mean, it was like you took us like a little journey, and
Hmm.
then it just felt like like a finding who you are, back
Exactly.
like finding your way back to you, and that's the control that I think we have to take in, like in our lives. Anyone,
Yeah. Yeah.
definitely don't lose this.
Who you are. Yeah.
Yeah, it's super important. I appreciate that message, because yeah, I was like, man, that's good. That's really good. I like that. Like that a lot.
Yeah. I think very deeply when I write stuff.
No, it'd be great stuff. I was like, wow, you're a really good writer. Hey, maybe you could do that. Like, you never know. That's a really good, like for filming, you can like write a amazing movie. Talk about Romeo and
Yeah.
Juliet. I mean, watch out.
Maybe I will. Yeah.
Hey, that's really good. I always like to ask this question to every guest, and there's no wrong answer, but I just want to know what you would choose and why. Respect or loyalty? Like, which one would you choose and why?
Respect. Because I
Mm,
just feel like loyalty not earned is, I don't want that. And I feel like even if they're not loyal to me, if they respect me, that means they understand my character. And I feel like that to me is worth more. And I wouldn't want someone to be loyal to me just for the sake of being loyal, because I feel like then it's like you're not using your mind or your heart, or like you're not being you. You're just being what I want you to be. Like
mm,
I want people to be free to choose, you know, um, their own fate and not be influenced by me in any way like that. So actually, I even hate like making suggestions on what to eat sometimes. I was like, oh, what do you want to eat? you know. So I definitely like the respect more. I think that's harder to earn, honestly. I feel like
yeah,
because
definitely
how
it
people
is.
think of you in their head, you can't control that.
It's
They could
true.
work for you. You could hire someone and they could be loyal, but like how they think of you in their heart, that's something that's up to them.
That's so true. Yeah, I like that answer. That's a good answer. It's a great answer. I'm curious. Being in Los Angeles, I used to live there, so it's so funny. We never actually met. It's crazy. Such a big
Yeah.
world. But I used to live there for like, oh my God, almost like 11 years. And I'm originally from Florida. So coming from a small
Wow.
town, going to Los Angeles and, you know, making something happen, I was really like nervous. I was like, well, God, I don't know anybody. How did you
Yeah.
like get, I mean, I'm sure like meeting the people, and then after the pandemic that happened,
Hmm.
is it different now to you than it was before all this, like the pandemic happened, like everything, meeting
Oh,
people?
definitely. It changed a lot. Definitely the pandemic. I felt like it still hasn't gotten back to exactly how it was, and it probably won't be like that
Mm,
again.
interesting.
There's a different period now where things are just not as well. It's also you're dealing with a lot more. Everyone's online now.
Yeah.
It's easier. You don't have to go to in person to everything anymore, and people have gotten used to that. And some people don't even want to work. Some people work from home now, so it's like it is different.
Yeah.
But I think when it comes to like meeting people, it's important to think, where are these people? What do they do?
Yeah.
Are they are they performing at clubs? Are they, in the studio? Are they in different meetings that you could attend? And just like finding out, like it's like public information.
Yeah.
And then you just need like an excuse or a reason to put yourself out there. I
Yeah.
think it is hard to try something new. I struggle with that myself because I like to just do the same thing every day like a robot sometimes. um,
What's your sign? May I ask you what's your sign?
I'm not sure. I think it's Libra.
Ah, okay. Okay. Cool. Nice. I thought you were Leo. I don't know. I had that.
My brother is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice. Libra is great too. It's a good sign. It's a good sign.
Yeah.
No, I like that. I'm just curious because I mean, I know how, like you said, everything's so different now after the pandemic happened. Like everything's online and no one wants to like actually meet in person anymore. And I feel like I miss that meeting in person and talking and actually
Yeah.
getting that kind of, you know, exchange versus online
Human
because
interaction.
yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I just wonder how you deal with that. And, I mean, I felt a really huge gap, and that's why I actually left Los Angeles, because of the how different it was. It felt like everyone's so disconnected now. Um, and so, leaving, I was like, I'm gonna go, and I felt like Atlanta was probably a little better.
Hmm.
So, and then I just felt like it's really, I'm not using it as an excuse, but I feel like it's harder for African American people to actually crack open some doors. So Atlanta felt like to me a really good opportunity because there's a lot of African American people
Oh yeah.
thriving. So I wonder,
Yeah.
is that something that you deal with a lot in Los Angeles, particularly like what you're trying to do is like knocking down those doors or barriers? Do you feel like it's getting
Yeah.
better?
I mean, honestly, I was just thinking like, I think I made a joke the other day, like, I don't even know if open doors are real because it feels like a myth.
Oh
So,
man.
uh, yeah, no, I don't really have, I had to keep convincing myself of like things that I've done as accomplishments sometimes because I feel like maybe my goals are like higher than, you know, what I feel like I've done. So, um, but I have like siblings and stuff, and then sometimes they get jealous of me for like doing certain things. I'm like, really, that's not a big deal. So I don't know. I think it's all about perspective too,
Yeah.
but I definitely do think it is harder to, especially in the past. I think it's getting better now as you
Yeah.
know, as a black person to like find work in Hollywood. I mean, that's always been kind of tough. Um,
What do you think
and
changed? What do you think changed now? Like as far as like how it's better for you, like how so? I mean, can you give me some examples? Like, is it easy to get an agent, or is it easy to like get work and perform to get on shows?
uh, okay, well, I do think that I recently got an agent, and from before I think maybe before the pandemic, I had some trouble getting an agent, and this time it was a little bit easier to get an agent for me. I had like more
Nice.
agents reach out to me. I can't really put a reason to it. It might just because I got better myself.
Hmm.
So I'm not really sure exactly. And for me, it's too early because, like, yeah, most of the time I've been in LA,
Nice.
it has been like no doors. But yeah, so like I am starting to get some doors, but I feel like it's a little too early for me to tell whether or not it's actually
Oh, I
enough
see.
opportunities. Yeah,
Okay. Okay. Well, hey, that's good that you're still, breaking down those barriers and working and doing what you love to do. And
yeah,
that's important. Where can people find you on social media so they can follow you and like your journey?
awesome. So they can follow me on Spotify, iTunes. I'm also on Instagram, AYR Majesty. If they're into threads now, I'm on threads.
I don't
Yeah,
understand threads. I'm not on it yet. I don't know what that is.
it's just it's just kind of like a forum, I guess.
Oh, okay.
It's
Okay.
very interesting. I noticed in the feed you usually get a lot of people you have no idea who they are, and a lot of people are talking about that. It's like, why am I seeing this guy's stuff? It's kind of like chaos right now.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, I'll definitely check it out. Threads. Okay. Nice. Well, hey, thank you so much for coming on. And everyone go stream She's a Samurai. And all of your music, you have a lot more than
yeah,
that.
I
I
have a
mean,
lot.
I looked at I listened to a lot of your stuff, but definitely go follow the journey, check him out, support. And thank you so much again for coming on. Any words of advice for people that are listening? What would you leave them with?
I guess my biggest word of advice would be to never give up on yourself, and remember that the world is going to be bigger than you, and you can't control everything. You can't control when you get your door down, or when you make a break, or you get fans, or but I think it's important that you don't start to doubt yourself because I know I was doing that. I was like, oh, I'm never gonna make songs that are good because no one's responding. And I had to keep fighting and improving myself. And if I didn't do that, I would have never made Samurai. I would have never made some of the later tracks that turned out to be some of my better ones. And it's because my earlier tracks, I was still growing, but it wasn't the best I could do. But then I started to think that was the best I could do. I was like, if this is the best I could do, I'm never going to get anywhere.
Yeah.
So don't limit yourself, is I guess what I'm trying to say. It's like you are capable of so much more. And even if no one's responding or you're not getting anywhere, you just keep going at it.
I like that. That's great. Great advice. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for sharing your journey and your story with us. I appreciate your time and definitely have to come back in the future for sure.
It was great talking to you.
You too. And thank you all for listening. And always remember to live, love, laugh. We'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.